All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Good Old Fashioned Philly Wrestling Podcast. My name is Rick Smooth, aka Ricky the Dangling Steamboat, aka Rick Smooth, aka whatever I just said, and I'm also here joined with Alan, the All-American cameraman fencer maker. How you doing today, Alan?
Hey, also known as Darby O'Reilly. What's up? Because I'm going to get hardcore on someone's ass.
The Dublin Destroyer, Darby O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Nice, bro. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about several, a top 10 list of people who have revolutionized the wrestling business.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just start naming people off the top of my head. All right. First person at the top of this list, I'm gonna have to go. You gotta understand, this is the Pro Wrestling Archives, top 10 revolutionaries in the wrestling business. We have to go with our time period, which we grew up in. We grew up in the golden era of professional wrestling into the Attitude Era, the so-called Attitude Era, which I like to call the NWO era, because WCW almost beat WWF a lot of times in that Monday Night Wars. So, with all this being said, I have to give number one to the person who I think changed the wrestling business the most. Some people would say for good, some people would say for bad, but one thing that he definitely did was he created a new wrestling product never done before. I'm giving it to Paul Heyman for his contribution with ECW.
Definitely, man. I definitely agree. Like, Paul is a visionary in the wrestling business. Like, with all he's done with ECW, like, Vince McMahon in WWE, WWF, like, when he had the whole Attitude Era, like, ECW was doing that long before, like, at the arena. Like, so in my opinion, the Attitude Era in WWE is like a watered down version of like what Paul Heyman was doing in ECW all along.
I agree 100%, and we're going to move right down that list because you handled that. Number two, I'm going to have to go with the man who has taken all this stuff to another level, even though some people say he destroys the territories. Vince McMahon gets number two on the top 10 revolutionaries in the wrestling business, and I'm going to give it to him because of how huge he thinks and because of how successful he's been.
Okay.
Going right down that list, if you don't have anything else to say about Vince, number three, I'm going to have to go with the guy who gave Vince a run for his money, and that is none other than Eric Bischoff. He did the opposite of Vince and appealed to an older, reality-based crowd, and I think that changed wrestling forever, and still to this day is why people like me, who I'm 35 years old, still watch wrestling.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that one.
Going right down that list, number four, I'm going to have to go with Brian Pillman Sr.
Definitely.
Because of his whole loose cannon gimmick, conning the con man, reality art, originality. He changed with the times before everybody else did in the 90s. I know he was one of those people with long blonde hair, kind of looked like an 80s wrestler, but he actually switched his role up with the loose cannon ticking time bomb thing, way before the curve of all that, and he might have even started that. Okay.
Absolutely. Brian Pillman is a revolutionary in the business and all too, like all the stuff that he's done and everything.
Yeah, one of the greatest, people with the wrestling psychology. So going right down that list, I'm gonna have to go with number five with Jim Cornette, and the reason being is with Cornette shitting on the shitty shit in wrestling and utilizing his psychology to do so, I think that is pro wrestling. Whether he's working people or whether he's shooting on people, he's still utilizing wrestling psychology in a way to roll over and pin this new millennial stuff that's going on, which is just not representing what the true essence of what pro wrestling is.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you to an extent with Cornette, but also too, like, a lot of people lost a lot of respect for Jim Cornette out of some of the stuff that he said, and as of recently, the stuff that Jim Cornette was saying about Becky Lynch having to like relinquish the Raw Women's Championship because of getting pregnant and all, and like.
Well, can I say one thing about that real quick?
Sure.
I haven't heard what Becky said back, and I haven't heard what Seth Rollins said back. But here's what I did hear was I heard what Cornette said, and basically what he was saying was when your top talent is leaving. It's got to be a strain on the boss. That's what I heard him say. You know what I mean? But the other thing that I'll say about that is that I wasn't even that interested to hear what Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins had to say because Seth Rollins' new gimmick has been cool, but I boycott watching Raw. I boycott watching WWE right now because of the product. So that didn't even interest me to hear what they had to say back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you.
Which is sad, you know what I mean? It's a hard time right now for me because I am a loyal, diehard WWE guy. Dude, my DJ name's Akeem. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a serious fan. You know what I mean? Yeah. Going right down the list though, number 6. This is one that I might catch a little bit of guff for too. But growing up in the Philadelphia area, we saw the rise of RF video through ECW and through whatever mall it was in back in the day. Do you remember the mall's name? I
forget the name of the mall offhand that he was in, but I do know that RF has had a really great run in the wrestling business, and like you and I were talking about earlier, like how he's been taken to do a virtual store because you can't really be vending at shows with this whole pandemic and all. So he's been taken to Facebook Live and and other means to virtually sell his product. Where like he has tons of stuff. I know I have a whole collection of VHS tapes and from way back when I was in high school that I got from a coworker of mine, and one of them I put it in and it just says RF Video. So like RF Video's been around for a while, and like he's.
Oh, I remember them, dude. I remember them in '96 down at the arena, and before they were down at the arena in '96, they were around like doing the old school tapes as well. Like we first heard about the Japanese tapes through RF, and one thing that I want to say is what makes him revolutionary about it is, one, the amount of content that he's put out. I mean, he's way ahead of everybody as far as that goes, and turning it into profit. In struggling times like these, he's still able to, because I know because I buy videos from him. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a genius. I mean, he's one of them guys that, in all honesty, probably got screwed over because of his brilliance. That's all I'll really say about that, because that dude is a brilliant guy.
Yeah, and you guys definitely, if you want to hear more from RF too, if you scroll down more in the archives, I did do about a year ago a one-on-one interview with RF, so you definitely should check it out. He drops a lot of knowledge in that too, and talks about a lot of good stuff. So.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind now that I've been around shows for the last couple of years that dude is a real motherfucker. Yeah. Now, okay, moving on now. The next person I would put on this list, I have to, and I'm putting him kind of low on this list. But I mean, as far as drawing money goes, and with the ability to be able to relate to the crowd, Hulk Hogan is absolutely not only a wrestling legend, but he's a wrestling revolutionary.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I remember watching him when I was growing up in the 80s. I remember watching Hogan.
Yeah. I used to go to them house shows down at the Spectrum, and man, he would come out and do his thing. I was always an Ultimate Warrior guy, so when I saw Hogan doing his posing and all that after the matches, and the whole place would be going nuts, I was always kind of reserved and in the cut, like, yo, what the fuck's this dude doing? And then when the Warrior would come out, I would go crazy.
Yeah, I remember watching, Hogan versus Andre the Giant. That was an awesome match that I remember seeing from the past.
Yep. Going right down that list, we have another legend who should probably be higher on this list, but just the way that we're doing this list, we're just doing it based on you know, the kind of impact the revolutionary moves have caused.
Yeah.
So we're doing the effect of it all. Ric Flair, you know, the ability for him to be able to cut promos the way he does and portray his artistry the way that he does is unlike any other wrestler in the history of wrestling as far as his ability to reach that many people and affect them, whether they love him or they hate him, with his artistic personality.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Going right down this list, we got two more. Number 9, I'm giving it to Bobby the Brain Heenan as a revolutionary in the wrestling world with his approach to the psychology of this stuff. The way that he demonstrates psychology in ways that you wouldn't think of is exactly why Bobby Heenan will go down as one of the greatest of all time.
Okay.
And number 10, I want to get this before my phone dies, but you know, Steve Austin, number 10, relating to people and pulling off his character in a revolutionary way. You know, one of the top guys of all time, should be higher on this list. However, we're not just talking about on-screen personalities. We're talking about, you know, the whole business. So Steve Austin, number 10.
And also, too, like I'd like to add 2 more to that list, too. Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan, because Tony Khan is the financier behind AEW, and Cody Rhodes, and just because AEW is easily between Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan, they're like easily bringing AEW as a massive competition for Vince, and like just giving the fans an alternative besides just the regular stale WWE products. So like Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes are definitely on that list too.
I think that's a good point, man, and I think that Dusty Rhodes should probably be on there.
Exactly.
I think The Rock should probably be on there, and you know, he maybe to a certain you know, maybe the Ultimate Warrior doesn't, maybe he gets left off because of all the backstage stuff, but you know, there's definitely people, you know, Hall and Nash should be on here. You know what I mean? But they kind of fall under the Eric Bischoff category. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
Or the Hogan category. But yeah, like I was thinking about Hall and Nash a lot lately, and that those guys haven't really truly been remembered right in their part in all this wrestling stuff, and I think that might be our next episode, Alan. I think we should work on that for the next episode.
Yeah, I agree. We should definitely.
All right, cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Please write some comments. Do whatever you want to do. This is Rick Smooth and Alan Fenstermaker saying good night.
Good night.